you're not alone. It's okay to be vulnerable. But the first step was really scary. How are people going to react to it when I'm going to say, like, I have this addiction, or I have this game addiction, or I have problems with my parents that we don't want to talk about?
Welcome to the How to Heart Show, helping men reconnect to the heart and empower others as the leaders they were born to be. I'm Vincent Hazenboom. The world needs the raw and authentic men right now. Join us if you're ready to make a change.
Hey, what's up, Lions? And welcome to the How to Heart Show. I have a really amazing guest. I consider him as a good friend of mine. We had a couple of talks, we had a couple of sessions, and we had a really great connection. And so I introduced him for my podcast, and he said, like, yeah, let's have a talk and see how things are going. So I want to introduce Dr. Kris Belfry. He is really in the self-development like me. He knows a lot and he can talk about many things and aspects in our lives as men. So I want to introduce to you to Kris. So Kris, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. This is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
You're right. We've had some great conversations and we've recommended some great books to each other. So it's been great getting to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I've met you through Robin O'Donovan. I also did an interview with her.
Yes.
But once we talked, we really had a click, and I explained my situation also with my porn addiction, with my video game addiction, with my struggles as a man, and my struggles as interacting with women. So could you explain a little bit about yourself in a nutshell, who you are, what you do, and your experiences and everything, so the listeners can know who you are?
Yeah, I guess, really in context of like a little bit of background, I guess for me is really, I'm an embodiment coach and I just help people get back into their bodies, relax their nervous system and really get in touch with, how they're thinking and how they're feeling. But ever since I was 13, I was in a serious car accident. I've wanted to help people. And so I just took a journey into becoming a chiropractor. I studied over 25 chiropractic techniques. I studied probably at least another 25 more esoteric techniques and eventually created my own technique. And, and it was really more about energy. And, I've been practicing energy work for going on 20 years in May. So really around the corner here. So, I really felt that, I knew energy fairly well. But it was really like my own marriage falling apart that I realized I didn't know anything about energy because there was this whole masculine and feminine energy that I didn't even understand. And we don't think the same. We don't act the same. And, that was a whole new eye-opening experience for me. And so I really did a deep dive and understanding it of even a deeper level. And more today, I really just help people, like I said, relax their nervous system and start to realize that they're not their thoughts, because we kind of have these constant thoughts of like not good enough, unloved, and whatever that's like story that keeps going on and on like a reel, and we're not those. And we could actually be the listener of that. And we're not our bodies, the body is just a vehicle to take us from point A to point B. We're actually something deeper, that it's that stillness that sits within ourselves. That's our true essence of who we are, our soul, or, whatever you want to call it. It's that spirit. It's that essence. It's that, if you quiet your mind, it's that stillness. It's that voice that gives you that knowing answer that is the right one. And I just teach people to listen to that and then become the listener of what's going on in your head. Because once you figure out what's going on in your head, then you could do something different in it. If you feel what's going on in your body, then you could change those things. And that's what I do.
I really want to thank you for that, because for me, that's also like a spiritual journey that we go through as in our phases, that we gonna listen also to our inner calling, our inner selves. And also our mind can be like a monkey and just say things, but sometimes it can also tell you really important things about the things that you need to do or the things that you might forget. So it's also really good to filter that out.
Yeah, and it's getting that awareness of the knowingness, as well as like, sometimes you sit there and say, oh, should I date this girl? And then the inner knowing says no, but the story goes, oh, but she's so beautiful. It's like, which voice do I listen to? Oh, she treats me so well, but you're missing all the red flags because of she's validating you, or she's, showing you that she loves you. But deep down, there's a lot of red flags and your body's saying no, 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 but your head is saying yes. And so it's really just slowing all that down and listening, like what part of me is really the part of me that's the knowing that I need to know, right? And so instead of listening, doing the listening, we really want to here, you know?
I agree. I've been also struggling with that a lot myself. When I was attracted to somebody or I had an interview, I was in my head like, oh, I don't want to make mistakes. I want to do this. I want to do this right. But then you're not aware. You're letting things happen, but you don't know what's happened.
Right.
You're not in your awareness. And then you're so inside your head, and then you're gonna just wanting to get the control back, and then it's a total mess. And yeah, I struggle a lot with that. And what I want to go back to is you had an accident when you were 13, I think
Yeah.
you believe you said.
Yeah, 13, yeah.
And from there, the moment you decided you wanted to help other men or other people. So how did that start from you? How was that moment for you? Did you realize I want to do something with that? Did something happen in between, or you had some journey to go through? How did that start?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, it was like a near-death experience. I live in Canada. Canada has a lot of mountains and rocks, and instead of the old days where the roads go up and down the mountains, they drive through the mountains, so they blast through the mountains. And my grandmother was driving, and she lost control and hit one of those which we call rock cuts, just a rock on the side of the road hit. And I end up, cutting my bowels in 3 places, and they knew that I was having pain, and so they did some just exploratory surgery, and they found out I was, bleeding. They fixed it up, and the job wasn't done properly. And, needless to say, I almost died. And nurses came to my parents. It was finally a nun that came to my mom and said, look, we're really concerned because, you don't question doctors. And the doctor that did the surgery was like, or sorry, the doctor that was caring for me said, oh, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. But I was getting sicker and sicker, and the nurses were concerned, and then finally the nun said, we're really concerned. And so my parents got a second opinion from the doctor that did the surgery. And I don't know the whole fully details. I don't remember them all, but eventually the doctor came, said, oh, we got to do this, and made some changes. And then the recovery started for me. But from what I understand, everyone was pretty worried about me, whether I was sepsis or something. I don't remember the details, but I don't know. There was this inner knowing. It was just like a light had gone on, and it was like a switch had gone off. And I didn't see it until, I looked back in my life and I saw it. But my parents, family said, oh yeah, you changed. There was a different Kris that came out of that hospital. And so I can't really tell you, but it was just my focus changed. It was just like who I wanted to be, that all changed. And so that was where the journey came of going to chiropractic school and becoming a chiropractor, and eventually leaving chiropractic to create my own technique. And yeah, but there was always this inner knowing. And so getting back to that inner knowing, there was always this inner knowing. And it was that just listening. Even when it came to like learning all these techniques, like how did I create it? It was just like, I just felt like this worked and I tried it. Even though like I'd study this course and they'd be like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you have to do it this way. And I'm like, actually, you could do it this way. And this worked. And it didn't come off like, it wasn't me being arrogant and said that in the course. It was just me in my own private practice. I said, well, actually, I can speed it up and do something. And it was just listening to that inner knowing of, okay, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And it worked. And so that's how my clients, my patients over the years are truly a blessing. My family was truly a blessing because, little did they actually know that a lot of times they were guinea pigs, and never for the worse. It was always like to make myself better at what I was doing. I wanted them to be better as fast as I could, as quickly as I could, and I remember a guy I went to chiropractic school with, and he came to me, he's like, I don't care what you call it, you're doing chiropractic. I said, look, I'm just here to help people as best I can. I said, if I got to climb a tree in the middle of Africa to find out this herb that's going to get him, so that's what I want to do. I said, I want to help people as best I can, as quickly as I can. And, if I had a one hit wonder, I mean, that's it. I love that. And that's kind of been my goal, is to help people as fast, quickly as I can. And yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really like that story. And also, I feel like you also had a spiritual awakening in that moment when you felt like, I want to help people, and you moved in the direction of the chiropractor and all of that. And also,
Yeah.
you also did something with the natural medication, so with plant medication, all of that, or you only did with the body?
Yeah, it was just that inner knowing and trusting, and just trusting. That was
Yeah.
all big.
That's so important, right? To really trust also in your own abilities, not just when you have a spiritual awakening or something happens to you, but also from the moment you're born and you grow up, that you also learn to trust in yourself, and also that it's okay to make mistakes, and that it's okay to be vulnerable. And I really want to go on you with the topic of being vulnerable, because we talked about it oftentimes about being vulnerable. So how important is it for men to be vulnerable in their life, in their phases in life?
I think for me, it's huge. I mean, it's tough to do because as men, we're not really taught those things. And, as a guy, I played hockey, and, being a Canadian, that's what you do growing up, or anyone that played sports, football, whatever the sport it is, especially some of those rougher sports, you go, you bang each other, hit yourself, you get hurt, and, maybe not sort of soccer, not to bug soccer, but, you hurt yourself, you go back out there, and just the other day, like, a guy got his, skate right in the forehead over the eye, 75 stitches, and he was back sewed up and back out on the ice. That doesn't happen in a lot of sports, but it's that mentality that men often, whether it's the battlefield even, it's just like, oh, you got shot, get up and get out there, and we're not taught that it's okay to have feelings, and it's not okay to be, to share those feelings. And, for me, it's been the biggest gift to be vulnerable, and share my story. And going through, like you talked about, personal growth. I've been in personal growth for a long time, and I sat in a lot of workshops where people were just bearing their souls, and I saw so much value in their stories. Like, a guy could talk about something in the course, and you don't really get it until you hear someone's story about that, and it's just like, that's what moves me. And so even, when I work with clients, I share my stories because those are the ones that they get. That's what hits home for people. That's, they can relate to the story because they're going through it too, especially as men. Like, I share my story going, with my wife who had an affair, and, I got the, I love you, but I don't love you. And I only share that because, I know so many men have gone through that. And it's easy to sit there and, we're, as men, it's just like, F her, she's a, slut, or whatever we're going to label that. And I just took it as like, what can I learn from this experience? And it's easy to label it toxic relationship or narcissist. Those are labels that's going to keep us stuck. I have a friend that just, who's on he's just finished marriage number 2 when I ended mine, or mine ended. I didn't end mine, but when mine ended, and his viewpoint hasn't changed on women. He hasn't been vulnerable. It's I met with a friend on vacation recently, and we share this friend in common, and he's like, hey, have you talked to him? I said, no. I mean, I don't want to hear the same stories. He's doing nothing different. And it's important for guys to find other men to be open and vulnerable with and share. And that's where really that growth comes from. If you think that you're just going to poo-poo on the last relationship, then the next relationship, I promise you, is going to be the exact same. She might be a blonde. She might drive a different car, and, she has a different job, but I can promise you that the outcome is going to be the same. Unless men do something different, change who you're being, nothing's going to change. And that was that man. And he married, the first wife is pretty much similar to the second wife. I can assure you that his third wife, if he ever has one, is going to be similar because he hasn't changed. You're the only common denominator in those stories. And I just feel like, men have to, really share to, and be open and vulnerable, and find men. I think that's important too. Because it's great to be vulnerable with women too, and especially with someone you love, but you really need to find, and we talked about it a little bit too, is finding a tribe. Men have to find their own
Yeah, I
little
agree.
tribe of other guys, other men that they can connect with, that they can open up to and share and be open, because a lot of times your wife doesn't need another child, right? They don't need to babysit somebody else. And so sometimes it's taking it to the men and being vulnerable with a man. And, I've been in men's groups since my marriage ended, and I highly recommend it. It's been the best thing, and it's been eye-opening to me. I sat in a room, and they were amazed because came in and I was ready to be vulnerable with them, and I was amazed because I sat there, and one man asked to be hugged by another man, and I thought, okay, I'll get a hug. I'm not lying. The man hugged him for 40 minutes at least.
Oh, wow.
Like, even me, I was like, I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And I felt uncomfortable too. And I can't, to be hugged just consistently by another man like that, and a lot of guys may think, oh my God, what kind of gay group did you join? And these
Yeah.
men, it has nothing to do with that. These both men are heterosexual men. It was just, they're going through a tough time, and, they needed to be hugged, or the one man needed to be hugged. He had wife just left him, and he had 2 kids. I mean, the stories are so similar, share a similar story. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with what you were saying, Kris. It's also for me in my own life. Once I opened up, when I showed my vulnerability, especially when I was, or well, now I'm doing better with pornography, but once I talked to people about it, once I showed it on social media, and I'm not saying that you should do that, but for me, it gave also some relief, because it was okay.
Right.
I'm not being judged. I'm not being looked at, hey, this guy is a porn addict, so just let him be. I felt seen. I felt I'm not the only one. And then, like you said, I start to connect with other people, and then I start to talk with other people about it. And then you notice you're not alone. It's okay to be vulnerable. But the first step was really scary. It was really, how are people going to react to it when I'm going to say, like, I have this addiction, or I have this game addiction, or I have problems with my parents that we don't want to talk about. So I absolutely agree that you say it's so important to share and open up. And also in your relationship, I've did some reading as well. When you open up to a woman about your problems, she's gonna be like, whoa, okay, did I marry a man, or did I marry this boy? So it's also really important to find man groups that you can share with. And also about the labeling, that's also what you see in society. When a man hugs another man, it's like, oh man, these guys are gay, but they can be best friends, or they have like built a connection that they're really like vulnerable with each other, that they can hug each other in public. But because of society, we label this behavior as gay, or they're faggots or whatever, and you don't know the reason behind it. So it's also a good way to talk about this as well.
And it's crazy because you can sit there and two women can hug and no one would even consider that they're lesbians. Right?
Exactly.
It's just like, then why can't two men hug, embrace, and feel the same way, you know? And yeah, I agree. And the one thing about being vulnerable is like, the more you share, like you said, the more you put it out there, the less impactful it feels to you.
It is.
Because
Yeah.
it's your shame, it's your fear that's holding this. But as soon as like you share it, it's just a story. It's something, the emotion that you've put behind there is gone. And I share a story about like in grade one, I would pee in just different parts of my house. It would just be like in the corner. I'd pee in the middle of the floor. And it was just looking back, I was acting out about a teacher that I had, and there was like a little apple, and you had to turn the apple to get out of the classroom, and so like I sat in the back, and I could never get to that apple, so it was just me acting out.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared this story. My mom's like, no, you never did that, because it wasn't impactful to her. And I remember clearly, like they thought it was a leak, because this is, you know, before my parents left for work before I went to school, and so I know that I was doing it. I remember clearly doing it several times, and so when I first shared it, that was like the toughest thing. But I'm sharing it now, like to whoever's listening, and the impact is no longer there. But there was a lot of shame and guilt and embarrassment that I had when I first shared that story in a group of 20 people, you know. And how that related is that my whole life just peeing was like a controlled mechanism. So like if someone at the front of the room said, oh, you can't pee until like we tell you, well, then I wouldn't. And I remember being in a workshop where, you know, in a course that they're like, oh, if you pee, that's just a story that you're going to actually miss what's happening. And so I sat there, and I would sit there for hours and waiting for the next pee break. I'm like, I kept looking at them, and I'm not even present. And so I would sit there and look, and like, oh my God, when's the next break? I got to pee. So I'm not even listening to the last 30 minutes, because in my head, that little monster mind, or, you know, the monkey mind is constantly going like, I got to pee, I got to pee, I got to pee. Had I gone 5 minutes to come back, I would have been present again. But I didn't want to miss out, because he said, oh, I'm going to miss out this conversation. And in another workshop that I had taken, it was going on and on again. I'm like, oh my God. And whatever someone was talking about, I didn't remember, but it hit me that time. And the whole story came like, oh my God, this pee is controlling me. So I walked out, and I came back from pee, and I was laughing. And they're like, Kris, why are you laughing? And then I shared the story that first time. And, you know, now I continue to share it. And that very first time I shared it was a ton of fear. There was a ton of shame, a ton of stuff hiding there, you know, and that's just one aspect. To talk about my marriage ending, and, you know, that's tough. And yet, you know, I could share it with people. And to side note, you know, I don't blame my wife at all. And it's easy to do because of what happened, or my ex-wife. I chose to look at like, how did I contribute to make her feel that way? That she felt that she needed to find something somewhere else. There's something I wasn't showing up. And she's her own agency. That could have happened regardless. But as I started to unwind, I said, yeah, you know what? I wasn't the best partner as I could be, because, you know, once I started to learn the difference between masculine and feminine, I could totally see how, you know, I was showing up. And I remember a time, you know, being vulnerable again. I remember my parents used to tease me, you know, finding me under a damp rock. And to me, I took it like the 5-year-old that I was. I pouted, I cried. I remember running away from home. And my parents laughed because of the way I took it. My sister took it like no big deal. You know, they didn't tease her about it, because she would just like, yeah, whatever. I know that you didn't, but I thought I did. I thought I was found on a damp rock, and they teased me and several times. And but that left me with this fear of rejection. And so, you know, getting back to my marriage, I remember you know, and it may have happened before, but I just remember this specific time because it was impactful. I remember, you know, trying to initiate sex. My wife was pregnant at the time, you know, and I could look back and, you know, maybe she was feeling fat or heavy and just wasn't comfortable with it. Either way, she said no. And I took it like that 5-year-old that was told that he was found at her damn rock. I remember turning in bed and pouting like I was 5. I remember, being that kid again. And how often do we do that? We, something happens and we're triggered to be that 5-year-old, that 6-year-old. When that story happened, and understanding the feminine is that she felt that. So that only compounded the story of really what happened. And, early on in our marriage started to build this wall in between us. Like, how could you say no and reject me and her feel that I, however she felt, maybe unloved or not safe, or that she couldn't trust me, the feminine feeling how I was feeling. And instead of, embracing how she, could have embraced how she felt or understood how she felt as to why she said no. And so, there's no blame at all. And I took responsibility for my part. She's her
Yeah,
own agent. She did what she did, but I looked at it for how I can show up differently in my marriage, in my next marriage, my next relationship.
that's something that I also experienced in my own relationship. When I was in a relationship a couple of years ago, I was really in my nice guy syndrome. I was trying to please her. I was trying everything to do in my power to make her love me. But all I did was pushing her away. I was not in my masculine essence. And I was just so scared of losing her that I was doing the other way around. I was not being me. I was pretending to be somebody else. I did everything in my power to please her. And
Right.
from there, everything went down because she started to behave different. She didn't trust me anymore. And like you said, when you initiate the sex, she's like, no, not today. And I felt something is wrong here, but I didn't understand why. But then when we come back to the feminine and the masculine polarity, yeah, then you understand, because also she was really in her masculine and I was in my feminine essence. So we would collide because I wasn't playing the role as a man and she was not
Right.
playing the role as a woman. In my journey also with it was, so this is the reason that everything broke down, or this is the reason that everything went down. And I think you see it in a lot of relationships with partners, and
100%.
that they are not playing the role as the man and the woman. They just not aligned with each other. And I think you see that a lot, right?
Absolutely. Especially now, with the feminist movement pushing, the feminine into a more masculine role. Most, careers, I mean, high-end careers are all masculine related jobs, like finance. If you're working in some kind of profession, of owning a business, running a business, numbers, those are all, masculine related jobs. And this isn't about picking on that women can't do that. They absolutely can. It's just that then she comes home in her masculine as well. And so it's just understanding this essence, because it's very different. And so and playing into that role. And you're right, I was that big people pleaser too. And and I realized, like, if we fought like 2 times, I mean,
I've been there.
that was really rare. So it's like, and I'm realizing that if you're not fighting, that also isn't healthy too. Like, it is healthy to have some fighting in your marriage, at least disagreements. And, I didn't fight at all. I just was like, oh yeah, what do you want, honey? And it's interesting because the woman doesn't want you in the feminine, and she tries to pull us out, but it's a weird dynamic, because then it's like, she wants you to choose, but she's, you felt like you can't choose, because I know a lot of guys get this point, it's like, so you feel like you're never right. Your choice is never good enough, never right.
Yeah.
So then you don't choose, yet she's asking you to choose. So take a powerful choose. It's just this weird dynamic that we don't understand. And I think that men and women should learn this polarity, as you said, right? It's really
Yeah.
important that we teach that to each other, and what's happening with, not to politicize this, but what's happening in modern day society is just making a total shit show, really, of it, because making it no gender makes no sense.
The thing, Kris, is with the men and the women, also women, they're gonna test you. She's gonna try to see if she's gonna be with the same guy she's met at the first time she saw you, or the first time you took her on a date. She's gonna test you and try, hey, is this guy still there? And I think a lot of guys get angry and upset because it's like, why she's trying to see and hear me out? I give her everything, I give her my love, and still I'm not right. But because of her in her femininity, she wants to know if she can still trust the masculine guy that she's with. So unconsciously, she's trying to poke this guy like, hey, is this masculine guy still there? And when he's just sitting on the couch and he's not doing anything and he has no purpose, he has no desires, and he just takes everything on her, what she says, and he says nothing back. He says no to her. She's gonna lose respect, and then she's gonna be like, well, maybe there's another guy, he's can give me what I want, he can give some words back, or he can be different.
Right.
And I think a lot of women unconsciously do that because they are programmed, because they want to be safe with a man. And if a man cannot stand up to her or life, she doesn't feel safe. And once you understand that, your relationship is gonna get better, because when you say no to her, it's like, oh man, finally he says no to me. So she can go back into her feminine essence, and she can give the masculine to you instead of her taking the masculine role as a man. And you see that in a lot of relationships. And I think they break down a lot with that because we don't understand. And also they don't teach us in school. So yeah, it's a really nice point to touch on with this.
I just want to warn guys that, it's not as simple as just saying no for the first time, because once you do say, hey, okay, I'm going to start to say no, well, that's going to just bring up a whole world for her, because finally you're stepping into that. And you might have a storm. And what I've always learned is like the man has to be that boat in the storm, the women, the feminine. And
exactly.
And we both have both. We didn't maybe clear that for people, but we both have masculine and we both have feminine energy and what we bring out, right? But the masculine has got to be the boat in that storm and has to weather that storm. It's so much easier, just like anything, just to get a quick fix or sink like the Titanic. But it really means to sit in that storm, because the woman is the storm, is the movement, it's the change, because men are more logical. Like it's like sometimes we're thinking, and I've been there, where it's like she just left for work just in the pissiest mood. How does she cheer up 2 hours later? Like, logically it's like, is she having an affair at work? I mean, is there something going on that I need to worry about? Or even worse, she comes home and wants to screw your brains out. And it's like, what? Like, you left here, a bomb went off in our house, and now you come home and want to screw my brains out? It's like, is she having an affair? Is she thinking of something else? Because a logical brain keeps going like, how's this possible? Right? That's the women. That's, their moods change in a drop of a dime. And we've probably all seen it, but that's just knowing that, right? And it's just, let it be. Let the storm, the boat, it's best just to weather the storm and not
be the rock. Be the rock of the storm.
Yeah. Be the rock, or be the boat that sits in the storm. And
also, to cut you off with this, there's a really good book about this topic. Is from David Dida. It's The Way of the Superior Man, and he also speaks about this topic. And I've read the book. I need to read it again, but once I understand it, it's like, oh, okay, women need that. They need to unleash the drama. They need drama, but they also need to unleash the drama. They have so much emotion stored up. They need somebody to unleash it on. And if you're the man, the masculine man, and you stand there and you take it, not if she's really like pulling you down and be a bitch about it, but really just, my day was this and this and this, and not please her like, oh, come here, let me fix that. Just let her rattle and just open up your arms, just hold her. She's gonna be like, oh man, she feels safe. And there's a difference between that and pleasing. And I think a lot of guys, especially me, been in the pleasing most of my life. And still today I see a lot of teenagers or younger guys out there. They are so scared of kicking her legs. Like, hey, I'm just gonna play with you, or I'm just gonna say no, that they're so afraid if they're gonna do that, she's gonna not be interested in anymore. So they take the safe road. But once you understand this concept with the dynamics of the men and the women, it's gonna get easier. Also, your relationship is gonna get easier as well.
Yeah, the one thing too, when you were talking about that, I'd add to is like, not just the people pleasing. We try to, like, when they're in a storm, we're trying to fix it.
Exactly.
And that's another thing is we, as men, we want to recognize, like, look, there's nothing to fix here. It's okay that whatever's broken, that she just needs you to talk. And as a man, we're so used to like, okay, something's broken, okay, you got 10 guys out there trying to fix a fence, like you're at a party and there's like a group of dads, and something wrong with the fence, all 10 dads are going to that. Okay, how can we do that, right? But that's not what the woman wants.
No.
The woman needs you to just to listen. And that was, one of my issues too, is like, especially as a coach, I'm like, okay, how can I fix this? And my ex didn't want that. She just needed someone to listen. Too often I was trying to fix as well.
Yeah, that's what you said. It's like, as men, we want to fix our relationship. We want to fix her, because if we fix her, then the relationship is going to get better. But it doesn't work like that. And if you learn and understand that, it's like, there's nothing to fix. You only, like you said, you need to listen to what she's saying and just not fixing her problem, but just listen and be there for her. She recognized she's being seen. And then it's like, okay, she can move forward with her life because she's been hurt. So this is, yeah, a quite interesting topic to talk about. But what I also like to talk about is the nervous system, because also that's something that's really important for me, because my nervous system was always crazy. Always when I saw a woman that I was attracted to, my nervous system went crazy. It went haywire. I was stressed. I was tight. I couldn't move. I was shivering, shaking. And I never understood why. But now I understand that my nervous system is so, yeah, how can I say?
In your
It's
fight or
triggers really.
flight. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
overstimulated. Yeah.
Exactly. I
That's what
get
happens.
stimulated really fast.
Right.
But now I do the Wim Hof method with the cold exposure and the breathing. It changes drastically for me. I have those triggers, but it's less. But the nervous system is also with traumas connected. And
Right.
I am an empath and highly sensitive. So it's dealing with a lot of things from outside of yourself. But I think that's also really important for us as a human being to also to listen to our breathing and calm our nervous system, because we're on every single day and we're always constantly exposed with stress and all of that. So can you explain more about the nervous system and how it works and how you can reduce that?
I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go on the call, but yeah, so what happens is that, we used to have to run from bears, we used to have to run from, tigers and different animals in the nature. And so that's when we use that nervous system, the fight or flight, right? Or freeze. So those are the things we would do in the past. But, now we're dealing with emotions. And triggers and different things that happen. So what happens as a child, just to make it nice and simple, is that something happened and it fired your nervous system and it's incomplete. So we didn't know necessarily how to process it at the time. So, when we were little, if you had children, if they'd bang each other over the head and then they're playing again, right? They felt angry with each other. They bopped each other in the head, playing again. Everything's great. But we're like, oh, you can't do that. So then kids don't know how to process these feelings. So how do I process that I'm angry? Right. And so it's like going through a cycle and the cycle stops. And so what happens is that you have these cycles that are going and stopping, and it just keeps your nervous system constantly firing. And then your outside world reflects that. Right. So your outside, what's going on the inside, your outside will reflect it. So I'll use my example back to rejection. And I used to think like the universe would show it for me to see it, but it's almost like I'm creating it in my outside world because things still happen. It's just how I respond. Things would happen and I would get rejected or I'd feel rejection. So whether that was, cut from a hockey team, whether that was, dating life. So it really made life difficult because I had this huge fear of rejection. I remember being a teenager almost and being, cut from a hockey team. I took it like that 5-year-old little boy. I remember, a time even just the coach was like, oh, these kids are a lot bigger than you, so you probably shouldn't play this game, because I was playing up a level. And so I took it like the 5-year-old and he let me play, and it's these constant reminders. So you go back to that very original time when you felt rejected. And so even as like a 20-year-old where that girlfriend dumped you, well, I would go back. And so it was so painful that I started to protect myself from it. I remember I made dating really difficult, where
Yeah, me too.
I would date someone 3 months maybe, and then I would be an asshole, so that way they would break up with me. So I didn't have to do the breakup and I'd have to create the rejection for them, or they would break up with me. And that would continue, that would persist. Or I created a story around like, and so then eventually from the dating world, I made it really quite difficult where I was like, well, I watched The Secret. I'm like, oh, I could create whatever woman I wanted. Well, I made this list like unattainable. Like she had to be a Barbie doll, like big boobs, like blonde hair, make millions of dollars, and crazy list. Like she couldn't like horses or have cats, and the list was retarded. I mean, look, but it was just a list that made it impossible. She couldn't have any children. By this point, I'm in my 30s. You're really shortening your list because, I mean, most women in your age group probably have been married or have had a child by this point, a big number of them. I remember meeting women. I met this one lady. She's like, oh, I have a horse. I love horses. I got my own horse. Well, the conversation ended when I remember sitting in Starbucks and she's like, oh, I've got a horse. And she went on, and I don't remember anything else she said because she had a horse. I'm like, oh, it's in my list. She can't be the one. And that was it. There was a girl like, oh, I've got a daughter. She's like 6. I'm like, oh, she's not the one either. And I don't remember the rest. My tuned out. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
That's not the one. And it was just made it easy for me not to date. And a friend, said to me, Kris, like, you're not really making space because like my seat next to me in my car was like always like my second office, it was always full of books, full of something. So I'd taken landmark form. I just chose I was going to be open and vulnerable. And that's when I met wife at the time. And so that worked out, got married, but rejection continued to happen. So in business, I remember clients, if they didn't come back, I felt rejected. Or even if they felt better and I didn't know, I felt rejected. Someone would unsubscribe from my list, I felt rejected. Even being single, I wouldn't even, swipe right or left, even a total stranger, because what if I swiped that I liked her and then she didn't like me back? Like a total stranger. It was just like ridiculous. And so once I was single again, I'm like, well, I'm going to start dating again. And I started noticing patterns, right? And so, and for me, I started to do what I teach. And it's really just, getting your body, breathing. It starts with breathing. First, I teach people, it starts really with a pause. You have to just pause. Okay. I'm feeling this way. And then start to be aware. Okay, I'm feeling rejection again. And then I just start to breathe. And that relaxes. And as as you do the work, it disappears. And all of a sudden, I can start going on day laps and start dating and not even care and choosing to make choices on, dates that are fun. People want to go for a coffee. I'm like, I have best coffee at home. I don't want to go to some place that serves poison or, crappy coffee. So, I don't want to go on a coffee date particularly. So I often don't. Rarely will I do those. But I've been golfing. I've been paddleboarding. I've been like kayaking, some ones that I've had fun. And people are like, Kris, what if, you go golfing and it doesn't work out? I'm like, I had fun golfing because I love to golf. And so, or going on these walks. That was another one. People like to go, let's just go for a walk. I'm like, I'm not going for a walk. I mean, this is ridiculous. So, and it was just like, and just me owning me, doing things that I enjoy, and I'm going to find that partner, the one that comes by for me. And why do I have to, chase and, feel like women control us? And that's part of it too, is like, oh, they got the big V that if they're going to throw it at us, we're going to just like chase it. And that's part of the problem too, is that they think like, oh, well, if she was going to give it up, we're going to, like a little puppy. Oh, she said yes. Like, I'm going to go. You have no control over that either. It's like she controls when you have sex. She controls when you get it. I mean, what other man has said, no, I don't want sex today? No man would say that. And like women would be like, what? It's like you taking control of that. I've been married. It's like kind of like, well, she's having sex just to please you. It's just like, well, why do I want meaningless sex? Like, or just like, that to me is just so I can get off. I'm like, I can do that myself in the bathroom with some tissues. It's really, and men think like, oh my God, like puppies. If she says yes, oh my God, mama. And it's just like we react. And so I think those are some important things that, as men, we have to take more ownership in that. So yeah,
Yeah.
getting back to that is really breath work, is really just starting to be aware when we're triggered. And it's the pausing, being aware that we're triggered, breath, or being aware, pause, breathe. And that's
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I want to, with the breathing, it's really life changing. If you start with that, even though if you do it once a day, just do it and see if it works for you. Maybe something else worked for you, but it did wonders for me. But I want to go back a bit about the relationship and with men and women, because the things that you explained, I felt the same. Once I got rejected for the first time, I felt every woman's gonna reject me. I thought everybody's gonna or every woman's gonna dislike me. And I created this wall for myself as well. I'm just like you, I'm really into self-development and reading books. But what I did was instead was I've read so many books. So I believe that I created this wall and I cannot be untouchable anymore. If women says something, it's like, man, it doesn't matter. I'm just this bookworm. I know I have other knowledge and I can deal with everything. But I was missing out. I didn't enjoy my life. I didn't enjoy the things that I did. I was just focusing on building this giant wall because we're so afraid of getting rejected, because it hurts. But what you explained earlier was the feeling like a children when it's like, boop, a bump on their head, they forget. It's like, okay, yeah, they gonna continue playing. But as men, we just take it so seriously. We take it like the ownership, what she says, we take the ownership of it. But once, if you start to learn to let go, and says like, okay, she says like, no, she's not in the mood, she doesn't want to talk, it's fine. It's okay. You can just let it go. But as men, we just take it so seriously. And for me, it was as well, I didn't date for many, many years because I was so afraid of also going to the next level. If I got an interaction with a woman and it started to get like physical, I would push her away because I was so afraid of going intimate with her that I just pushed her away. because of the fear of rejection. If I go too far, maybe she says no. So you always you want to go further, but because of the fear that is holding us back, we're not gonna go there. And then you miss a lot of opportunities. And also with the dating, then you go for pickup lines, or you go to the PUA industry, or you go to courses and you're gonna try it, and then it's not working out because you're doing things outside of yourself. You're not trusting your own abilities. You're not trusting your own gut feeling. So that's really important for us men, like you say in the beginning, to really go back into yourself, embody what you feel in the moment. If she says like, no, what do you feel? And listen to that. And I think we as men, we go really right in the head because we don't
Right.
want to feel. We don't want to feel the feeling what we're feeling.
Right. And what I would add is like, if you are feeling a certain way, women will already tell. So, I tell, some of my clients, some of my male clients that are dating, and what I practice, is say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. They already know you're feeling that way. So it's like calm. It's a pink elephant in the room that she already knows. So when you do get to be intimate, because maybe it's not just a fear of rejection, but there's also like, maybe some sexual shame that you have, past performance or past story or past whatever, and it's crazy because a woman feels no different. Just, it may not be about the sexual performance, but about their body, about how they look. It's just like, look, especially, guys that have been out of the game for a long time. Now you're getting into it. It's just like, there's this progression that happens or supposed to happen on dates, like it's this weird dating now. But look, I'm not comfortable, or I'm not, I'm a little bit shy, or I'm a little bit, new. This is new to me. Call it out in the room. They already know. I'm a little bit of, whatever the feeling may be, shame. I feel a little bit of fear with this. This is like, this is overwhelming. It's very new to me. It's been, I haven't had sex since my marriage of 20 years, or whatever people are going through as they, venture back out, or men venture back out into dating. And so I tell people, like men, to call that pink elephant on the room. She already knows. And that's that feminine. She knows how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true. Yeah, and also then she's gonna be open up to you more because it's like, man,
100%.
he opens up. He's vulnerable. He shows me his true feelings. He's scared. It's okay to be scared because women are also insecure. They're also scared. Maybe she's also, when she talks to you, like, oh, man, is this guy really? Does he find me attractive? Is my hair still good? She's gonna doubt herself. She's also gonna try to make herself more appearance for you to see. So also women are, they're also insecure. And if you just be vulnerable with them, they're gonna open up as well. And that's really beautiful to see. If you build that chemistry, that connection with her. And if you don't build that with her, that's fine too. You can say like, well, it's been nice to meet you, and move on. You don't have to be there and like a puppy dog, just hoping that she says yes in the late in the evening, and she's gonna go home with you. It doesn't work like that. You also need to take the initiative to make things happen. You also need to take the courage to take the first step and take her hand, or give her a hug, or give her a kiss. She's not gonna do it because what we discussed before, she is emotional. She's not gonna say like, hey, kiss me now because I like you. We as men, it's like, man, I want to kiss her. But as women, it's like, well, does he really like me? And she's gonna just try with her body to give you hints and all that, to show you like, hey, I'm interested in you. Do something now, because if not, she's gonna walk away. So that is also, for me, was a big eye-opening as well with being vulnerable and showing your true feeling. And it was really scary, but once you're gonna do that more, it's gonna get so much easier.
And I think, like, I want to just touch, because I think this is important here, just because, again, kind of what we talked about, is just because a woman is opening up that she wants you to make a move. Again, you're your own agency and you're your own person. And I think men often just feel like the women control the bedroom. And that's how a lot of women win people over, is like, oh, she put out, oh, she must like me, and that's where the trap gets into. But not recognize that she's not touching you. There's ways of being flirty and playful with her that you could say like, oh, I know you want to kiss me, but I'm not ready. And there's other ways that you can now take the power back. Like, I know what you're thinking. I know you want to go upstairs, but I'm going to make you wait. Yeah. That's only going to drive her even crazier for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what other man that she's ever experienced is going to make her wait for sex? Because she even already thinks that she's got control. As soon as she has sex, she's like, oh, I want him over. Because sometimes men are. That's all we talk about, blah, blah, blah. We think, oh, that's all men want. They even think that that's what only men want. So it's really, us men have to take our own power back, to our own strength, be our own agency, be confident in who you are. Like, look, if you don't get her, I promise you there'll be somebody else. Keep at the game and be open, and not that it's a game. Keep, being true to you. you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's important because even myself, I know, dating a girl, and I think she was expecting something, and I was like, no, not today, hon. And then that was it, and cool, whatever, man. Because I think it's like this, as an adult, you're like, oh, after 3 dates, it's like, oh, we got to have sex to like try it out. I mean, first of all, for women are listening, I think that's really shows me something. You don't respect yourself enough to, to wait. And then men want to say, what? I want to have sex first date. It's really, there's a lot that goes on in understanding relationships. Not that I don't have sex with them, but it's not the first thing that that's on my mind. It's changing that thing, because when I was a teenager, I was in my 30s, absolutely, sex was like everywhere I go. I'm like, okay, where can I find it? Where can I find it? But as I went through the work, I realized that, yeah, I mean, I have control of myself too.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to get as men as well.
Yeah, I like that. I really like what you said. And I also learned from Dr. Robert Glover. He also explains about that as well. And if you date a woman and you don't feel the chemistry and you don't want to continue, just tell her that. Don't be like, oh yeah, maybe we can hook up again. Just tell how you feel. Just be honest. Because if you're gonna be keeping her on a leash, that's not fair towards her too. If you know from the beginning that you don't want to continue with her, just tell her in a nice way, like, hey, I don't feel the chemistry, so let's part ways.
Good reminder for thanks. I mean, because sometimes I feel like I date some of these girls just to practice really on them, really, and it's probably not
Yeah,
fair
it's
on
also
them, but
good.
yeah,
It's also good to practice, but I think you also need to be
yeah,
honest with her as well. If you feel that you don't resonate with her, then say like, well, we're not going to continue on a date. And if she's like,
right,
yeah, but I want to see you again, your initial feeling is like, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna do it for her this time. But be like, no, I don't feel right with you. So you also need to trust that feeling.
yeah, 100%.
So I think that's also really what you explained in this talk, like to really embody with yourself and really listen to what your inner feeling is saying and trust that, because your gut feeling is your compass. It's gonna detect the red flags. It's gonna tell you your past relationships or your past experiences or your trauma. It's gonna tell you like, hey, be careful.
Right.
So I think that's also, yeah, a nice way for us to end the interview. But I have a question about
Sure.
for the listeners. What kind of advice from your career, from your life, could you give to them, for them if they're stuck or they have these fears, or they have trouble expressing themselves, or they really like, well, I want to share my feelings, but I'm still really scared to do that. How can they be more open and share?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I think remember a couple things I want to share is like wherever you at, you're going to be okay, regardless of your situation. In it meaning like you're in the thick of something that sucks. Maybe you just ended something that's, sucks for you. You're feeling that way. You're going to be okay. And the other thing is really just find that tribe. There's tons of different men's groups. You can reach out to Vincent, or you can, reach out to me. I can, direct you to some people, but, you know, um, or just have a conversation with me. And, yeah, it's really have a conversation with yourself. It's reaching out to guys and that you can be open and vulnerable. Maybe you have a buddy that you can talk to, reach out to them. But, a lot of times if another guy's not open to it, it's just like they don't want to hear it either. So it's finding that tribe of men that are there just to listen, to hear
Yeah.
you, you know, and crazy enough to give you a hug if you need it.
Yeah, and I know I've also been like in men's group and all that, and in the beginning it's strange, but it's okay. It's also, you need your tribe, you need your man,
Yeah.
lion tribe, or whatever
Right.
tribe it is, to connect, because you need each other. It's not like I just need a woman in my life. You also need friends, man friends in your life, to tell
Right.
that you have a rough day. And don't tell your girlfriend that you have a rough day, because she already has her own emotions. She already have her own things to deal with. So you need to find that tribe for you to connect
Absolutely.
with.
Even if you're in a marriage, I mean, that's the biggest mistake because most men have very little friends outside of their marriage.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad. The marriage ends, they're like, oh, how many friends do you have? Well, I don't have any. They're not even making room for women in your life. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Well,
Because they throw them away before the marriage.
right. So, and they have friends, but they haven't spoken to them in 10 years. It's like, and that was me. And I knew that going into my marriage, but I could see how I changed, like I was a guy that like loved doing things with my buddies, whether it's going to a baseball game, not even just even guys, even as a group, but then my wife was like, no, I don't want people at our house. Cause after that I have a barbecue. And then there was always an excuse. Oh, we got pregnant. And then there was like, oh, people can't come over past 8:00 because my daughter's sleeping. I'm like, a tornado could rip through the house. My daughter would still be sleeping. It was just like, but I was like, yes, honey, yes, whatever you like in that people pleaser we talked about. So, it's finding that tribe, find that lion. Yeah. So reach out.
Absolutely. And the final question, what advice or book can you give to the people that is like, hey, I really want to make the change. I really want to do something with my life. I want to open up, or I want to have a better relationship, or what would you give that?
Yeah, the men's Bible, which you talked about, obviously David Data is the Way of Superior Man.
Yeah.
I really liked Youngblood's The Masculine in a Relationship, and I love anything by John Weiland. And the funny thing is both Youngblood, I think J.S. Youngblood it is, and John Weiland are both, mentored by David Data. So,
Cool.
John Weiland has a ton of stuff on YouTube that you can just check out. I mean, it's really good stuff. Really good.
Yeah, it's the thing that I want to add here is once you start with reading books or watching on YouTube, you also have to practice it. It's not just reading the books and everything is gonna unfold by itself. You also have to go through the fear. You also have to go through the uncomfortable feeling with handling when she says like no, or in a tough relationship and she's gonna nag at you, she's gonna test you, she's gonna try to see if you're true enough, that you stand in your ground, that you stand in your masculinity and just be proud of who you am, and don't let yourself just blown away by her emotions or what she's going through. So also be mindful of that.
The last book too, obviously you mentioned too, Dr. Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy is a definite.
That's a really good. The thing what I will do is I will put the books in the description so the listeners can check the information out. It helped me a lot, especially Dr. Robert Glover. That helped me a lot. I saw so many things in myself, like, I need to do something about it now. And
it's like every page, like that chick, that's me.
Exactly.
That's me. Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not me. That's me. Oh. But yeah, that was definitely like a great resource too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kris, thank you so much for
thank you
for this amazing interview.
fantastic.
I really enjoyed it. So how can the listeners follow you, or how can they what are your initials?
Yeah. So my website's belfrywellness.com, or I'm on the social media, but it's Kris with a Kris. So Belfry, Belfry. So you can find me on Instagram, all those silly platforms that we have out there.
Yeah, I will put everything in the description, and they're gonna find you. And guys, Kris is really awesome guy, and I've learned a lot with him. We had so many, or not so many, but we had like off and on just calls, and I really enjoyed talking with Kris. He gave me really good book tips, and I really appreciate that Robin hooked us up to have this conversation. And it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. We've had some great chats, and
absolutely
looking to having many more with you, my friend.
Absolutely. So, Kris, thank you so much for your time and for opening up and being vulnerable. And it opens doors, right? If you just take the courage to open up a little bit and just share a little bit more of yourself, you see people gonna do the same.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
thanks for having me, my friend.
You too, man. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Hey, Lions. Thank you for listening. Glad to have you on our journey to the authentic self. Want to learn more to embrace your potential? I invite you to keep listening. Do me a favor and smash the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps the show reach more listeners who need to hear these messages. See you next time.